Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of you. This is your host Vaibhav. I welcome all of you to today's session of Daily Stock in which we are going to take a look on the CRM company Salesforce Inc. Its recent earnings have been fabulous. Its stock price performance have been equally fabulous and it is seemingly on the top. It has been enjoying subsequent quarters of growth where its stock price has also rallied along with its revenue numbers. Its margin has improved and the turnaround plan which it put in place last year seems to be paying off with its net profit jumping manifold from its little earnings, small earnings, net earnings in the last fiscal year. And I think with this new leaner, meaner look, it is well positioned for the growth. And we will be looking for the opportunities to trade and invest in this environment. So, first thing first, we are going to consider its quarterly performance in its in its not sales report, its earnings report. The name is Salesforce, so you will say that this is a company which is related to maximizing the sales, and that is true to some extent. If you are a small enterprise or a big enterprise, you can take its help to manage your customer relations and enhance your productivity and reach to those consumers, resulting in higher sales and higher revenues. And the company also stands to benefit from that. For the fourth quarter, the revenue stood at $9.29 billion, which is 11% growth in terms of year on year, and that has resulted in its net profit also rising substantially. For the quarter, its net income is now more than $1 billion. If we just go back a year, then you will see that the things were totally different. The stock price performance was also in decline, and its revenue was not very different, but its net income figures were in doldrums, but its initiatives to cut cost, improve operating margin is now paying off and positioning itself very well for the AI wave because it is a data driven company. It manages customer data for various enterprises, and it is going to analyze the data and generate insight using the AI tools at its disposal to gain insight and tailor the sales pitch, tailor its offerings to meet the consumer demands in face of those insights generated from the very consumers data, and that is going to help its enterprise customers to enhance value proposition and rely on the sales force much more for their needs to fulfill the customer demands, consumer relations. So overall, that is going to be a win-win situation for the sales force and its clients, the client enterprises, because ultimately it's all about the data and the insight that data provides. And with its architecture and enterprise solution, it is going to be in a leading position to offer these innovative solutions. And that is also reflected in its forward guidance for the next year. The full year guidance has been given, in which it expects the revenues to grow around 9%, and its net income is also likely to be on the higher side, with the expectation of revenues rising and resulting in higher income with its quarterly net income likely to be in the ballpark of $1.5 billion, and that puts the whole year net income in the vicinity of $6 billion, which is going to be an impressive figure for the Salesforce Inc. Given the fact that just a year back it was earning only $200 millions, and now yeah, we are looking at the possibility of it generating the net profit of this big number of $6 billions. Let us look at its last quarter's performance, and here's the consolidated statement of operations. The revenues haven't changed much. Of course, there is growth. There is almost 10 percentage point growth in the total revenues for the quarter as well as for the whole year. But that is not the whole story, because even after this revenue growth, the kind of growth that is being observed in the net profit is quite impressive to say the least, and that has been achieved by reducing cost and minimizing other expenses while trying to make the company a leaner and meaner force. As a result of that, the operating margin has improved, and that has put the Salesforce Inc. in a very good position to generate this net income of $1.446 billion from the net loss of 98 million just a year back. So there is a turnaround story playing out in a impressive manner, and the whole year income has also jumped from $200 million to now upward of $4 billion. So if we were to put it in percentage terms, then that number would have been quite big, and it has been achieved on back of a growth of just 10 percentage point in revenues. So you can make a guess, or you can simply look at the facts that this has been achieved by making it a more efficient organization in this challenging environment. In percentage terms, you can look at this. All right. Coming to the balance sheet, the some of the figures are also showing some remarkable growth. The current assets, cash and cash equivalents in particular, have now grown to almost $8.5 billion from little over $7 billion a year back. And this has been achieved because the company has been generating a lot more net income this time around. So its cash pile is growing. The cash generated by operations stood at $3.4 billion compared to 2.8 billion a year back. And for the whole year, the cash generated by operations has now crossed $10 billion, which is almost a 45 percentage point jump in cash flows from the operating activities just in a year. And out of that, the use in investing activity was $468 million in comparison to $312 million US dollars generated from the investing activity a year back. But overall, if we look at the annual numbers, the whole year numbers, then the use of cash in investing activities now stand at $1.3 billion. And coming to the financing activity, it has used 1.7 billion US dollars for the repurchase of common stock, which is lesser if we compare it to the numbers a year back. But proceeds from the employee stock plan is a lot higher. The repayment of debt is zero, and as a result of that, it has spent only 946 million US dollars in the financing activity, which is not less in comparison to US dollar 2.2 billion, which were spent a year back, and that has freed up a lot more cash for it to use elsewhere, as its cash and cash equivalent pile has now reached US dollar 8.47 billion from little over 6.4 billion a year back. Uh, at the beginning of the period, not year back. So all these things taken together are pointing to the betterment of business operations for the sales force. Now we have to see how stock price performance has been in comparison to its betterment of business operations on the ground, and the stock price performance is also reflecting of these changing realities where the stock has rallied continuously rallied for last couple of quarters, and it is now sitting on top. It is not really far off from its all-time high either. I think it is likely to cross its all-time high very soon. In a couple of weeks, if not days, we will be seeing a new all-time high being established for the Salesforce Inc. as it is approaching that level slowly and steadily. After the release of its quarterly earnings, we saw that it rallied on the higher side, and it is now sitting comfortably on these higher levels, and if it holds these gains and doesn't really decline below its recent swing low, I feel in the short run it is going to continue to make higher highs and higher lows. So with that in mind, we can position ourselves for profiting from this rally by adapting a simple approach of buy on dips. So all we have to do is keep a keen eye on its any correction and consolidation afterwards, and if it shows the signs of stabilizing and again gaining bullish momentum, we can jump in, we can go for a fresh new trade with the expectation of continuation of this bullish run in the short run, because we are looking at the charting with hourly as its candlestick time frame. So this is the chart which we can rely on while making the decisions for short-term trade and investment. And in recent past, particularly for the month of Feb, the formation has been of higher highs, and from these price levels of around 280 to 90, it is now almost 10 percentage point higher, with its peak coming in today's session itself of 308. And as I said earlier also, the momentum is quite bullish. It is continuously making higher highs and higher lows. So all we have to do is keep looking for the opportunities to capitalize on that, and any deep, as long as it is not deeper than the prior swing low, can be utilized for newer trading and investment decision, provided that we give enough time for consolidation after that move on the lower side and see that its recent swing low is not really far off the chart. It is not too deep in comparison to its recent swing low, and if it is keeping the range intact, it is not really dipping too much, then of course we can consider it to be part of the wave, and then gear ourselves for the rally on the next round. So for short term, watch out for the price levels of around 290, and if it doesn't really dip too much below that and continues to consolidate and provides you a good buying opportunity, you can indeed go for a new long trade while keeping the time horizon of a couple of sessions at the max. And if you want to increase your time horizon, then you also have to increase the candlestick time frame. And if we consider the daily time frame for each candlestick, then you get a medium term time horizon, and in that as well the company stock is clearly in the bullish mode with this formation of higher highs and higher lows. But here also it is a bit challenging to find newer opportunities to trade because, as I said, the Salesforce Inc. stock price is on the top, so it is going to take time for it to deep decline and then stabilize, then consolidate on the lower levels and start to rally higher. From the medium term, I think the price levels of around 250 are going to be key if in coming quarters, not quarters, in coming weeks, if you see correction, somewhat deeper correction, and then if it consolidates close to the 250 levels, then you can go for a newer trade after due consolidation, provided its correction is not too much below the 250 mark, and that is where our initial support lies in this current price formation, and that's where we can look for the newer entries for the trade setup. But that is almost 20 percentage point away from the current levels, so we will have to be patient for the stock price of CRM to decline from the current top and then consolidate afterwards. So that is going to be taking time, and I am not really optimistic at the current juncture that we are going to get this opportunity anytime soon. Maybe we will have to wait for a couple of weeks or maybe even a couple of months before we get a new trading and investing opportunity from medium term perspective in the Salesforce Inc. Now, let us see if there is any opportunity in the long run. For the long run charting, the price level is now close to this all-time high, this prior swing high, which was reached in 2021, is not really far off. We are almost there, and with that we will have the formation of higher highs and higher lows established for the long term as well. And afterwards, if you see any sort of correction in the Salesforce stock for a few months, and then when new opportunity arises after the consolidation, as long as the company holds close to or above 200, I do feel that we will have the opportunity to invest in the CRM from the long term perspective as well. So that's how the company's stock price is behaving in recent past, and it is looking bullish. The company's price trajectory has been bullish, and so has been its business. So taken together, all these things are pointing to the betterment of the company operations, and with that in mind, all we can do is keep looking for the opportunities to buy and for us to be able to generate money from these optimism. We do need some corrections and consolidation to adopt our buy on dip strategy. So that's all from my side for today's session. If any of you have any query or any idea to share, do write to me in the feedback and I'll be more than happy to take the discussion forward. For equally informative sessions, do like and subscribe to the channel. You will have various sessions hosted by different technical analysts and investment advisors. So you can have broader perspective on the developments in stock markets of the various economies, top economies of the world. Now it's time for me to sign off for the day. I will be back tomorrow with a equally interesting company to work with. See you next time around. Thank you all for joining in. Goodbye.